Okay, I am so excited. This is our first episode of Extraordinary People or Ordinary People Living Extraordinary Lives. And I am live here with Vanessa Mills, who I've actually known for, I think it's almost been like 7, 8. I was counting back because you said that Caden is 12 now. I think he was like 3 or 4 when I met you. Um, so it's been a long time, and about a year and a half ago, you and Bronson, your husband, decided to take your family on the road, and you guys left everything behind, and you actually converted an ambulance, which was pretty amazing. And you took off, and you said, "Enough is enough. We're ready for a change." And your
That's right.
website, do you guys have a website, or is it just Facebook? It's called 8 Years Global. Is that
So
right?
we do Instagram at 8 Years Global, and we kind of just post on our personal Facebook pages, and then we also do a blog. But I'm really awful at keeping up with it because I'm busy living my life. But I do occasionally post updates, and that is the number 8 Years Global at no 8yearsglobal.wordpress.com.
Okay, we'll post it in the notes here of this episode too, so that if you guys want to follow their journey, you can hop on Instagram or their blog to check it out. But I want to start off with kind of when I first met you, you lived in Truckee and you were working as a police officer in Reno, and Bronson was working as a firefighter in South Lake, which for reference, they probably each had to drive at least an hour, if not more, each day to just get to work. And I think you really did love your job, but it was just that it was a job. And
That's right.
you were away from Caden quite a bit because you worked really long hours. So I just would love for you to kind of tell your story of how you took your life from that to deciding to take everything on the road.
Well, when I first decided that it was necessary for us to leave this life behind, it wasn't because I just wanted to. As you know, I got hurt at work, and I had an awful, awful time with recovery. It
And
was
your
one of those things. It was
surgery,
just,
you were in so much pain too
yeah.
after surgery. Oh my gosh, yeah.
So, taking the viewers back a little bit, um, I got hurt at work quite a few years ago, blew out my knee, and had 3 surgeries, since the first blowout. And then follow back a couple years later, I end up going to work, and it was snowy, and I was actually fortunate enough to be working in Incline Village at the time, and went for a call for service of somebody trying to break into somebody's house, and it had rained and it had snowed and there was ice covering the ground. And there was just all of the stars aligned just right to create this awful scenario that 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 literally changed my life that day. And I hopped over this fence to get to this house, and I blew out my knee and couldn't walk for a couple of days, went to work, ended up having to have another surgery, 2 more surgeries actually. And the doctor had told me at that point that I could no longer do my job. I was never going to be able to run again. I could no longer function as a police officer because I could no longer fit the job category. And I just remember sitting there in his office, and I thought he was kidding. I really thought it was a joke. No, seriously, doc, when do I get to go back to work? This is really important to me. This is like my livelihood, it's how I feed my family. I need this job.
Yeah, a lot of fear, I bet, popped up right then.
There was a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified because at the time when he looked me in the eye and he said, completely straight-faced, I'm not kidding. You cannot go back to that job. I'd be more than happy to send you to a doctor that would be willing to allow you to do that. He said, but I can't in good conscience allow you to do that, because I would have to live with the responsibility every day that I let you go back on the street and you got hurt again, or you couldn't perform an aspect of your job. It either got you killed, it got your partners killed, or it put the public in danger. And I can't have that resting on my conscience. And when he said that, I knew that was the end of my career. And it was devastating. Like, I went into such a deep depression. I spent 2 months crying in my room. I couldn't function. I couldn't be a mom. I didn't answer my phone. I cried in my room, stayed in the dark for literally 2 full months. And I didn't know what else to do. And at one point, I started dragging myself out of bed and going back to work, and in a light duty capacity. And every day, sitting at the desk, and I'm seeing all of these people walk in and walk out. I'm taking all of these reports, but I can't do anything to help the people that I swore to protect. And it was devastating for me. And I didn't know where to go from there. But I knew that my career was over, and I knew that I didn't want to sit there every day in the same spot, being reminded of all of the things that were taken away from me. And I couldn't figure out how to break the cycle of that way of thinking. I just couldn't do it. And one day I just sat there and I was just so unhappy. And I started tossing around the idea of picking up and moving. And then, about a year later, I ended up going back to the doctor because I was having more issues with my knee. And he said, okay, well, the problem is that we've kind of kicked this can down the road as long as we can. And you don't really have any choices now. We have to replace your knee. It's so bad now that we have to do that. So I bit the bullet, and I think I was 36 years old, and I had a total knee replacement. And it wasn't something that the doctor wanted to do. He tried so hard for me to, get older before that was necessary, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. And so I went in. I had this surgery literally the day before my birthday. And spent the next 5 days in the hospital recovering. I had such an awful experience with the recovery that, Kayla, you were treating me for a lot of it.
And
it was so awful,
Your pain levels were so high. And I think, I had seen you before when you were saying that you were just kind of in that desperation place and depression, but this sent you even for a bigger spiral. And I would say that this was probably your rock bottom after that too. It totally spun your life in a completely different direction. And that's the fascinating part, is a lot of people I talk to that really make a huge change, they do hit rock bottom before they make that change, because it's a huge wake-up call. Would you say that's been your experience?
Right. Yeah. I think when you're involved in the everyday aspects of life, you kind of forget that the things around you really are not normal. And it makes it the way that you perceive it every single day, because you're stuck with it day in and day out, it becomes normal for you. Like for us,
you get comfortable with those kind of idiosyncrasies, and you don't want to go out of your comfort zone too. And you might have all these big ideas and dreams, but you're like, oh, well, I have to do this, and I got to feed the dog, and I got to feed the kids, and you don't dream, really. You forget to dream.
And the fear of starting something new is like, okay, it's fearful, but it's exciting. But what if I fail? What if people don't like it? What if I'm doing this and then I lose everything? What if?
And you could do that forever. You could sit on the edge of that cliff forever saying what if, and being inundated by doubt and fear and paralyzed in that position. But what gave you that edge to jump off your cliff?
The depression. I was so tired of feeling worthless. I was so tired of feeling sad and lonely and looking out of my window and how all of my friends asking, hey, do you want to go on a bike ride today? Are you kidding me? I can't even pedal my bike up my driveway. No, I don't want to go on a bike ride. You know, oh, do you want to go on a walk? I can't even walk around the block. Are you joking right now? Like, no, I can't. You know, like just all of these things that I could no longer do. The whole reason that we lived there and the whole reason that we had all of the things that we had and did all of the things that we did, I could no longer do.
Yeah.
And I just kind of hit that breaking point that I was like, if I can't do these things, then I need to change something because my environment isn't going to change. I have to change my environment.
That's a huge point too. I think that's really big, is that we kind of think that we don't have control, and especially with depression, it overtakes you and it's really hard. And a big aspect of that, I think, is not feeling aligned with your path. Like you don't have that purpose. You had no purpose, you said, you know. So if you have no purpose,
my purpose.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I mean, because we'd always had this plan. I had 10 years left. 10 years, I would retire, we would travel the world, we'd do all this stuff together, we'd have this grandiose life, you know. We'd been planning for it forever.
But it was always in the future.
Yes, but it was always when I retire. And one day I told Bronson, I said, when I retire, I'm not going back to work. I've watched so many people that I worked with retire and then they get bored and they go back to work. And I'm like, I can think of 1,000,001 things that I've been doing with my life, and none of them involve working. None of them involve me going back to work to earn a paycheck.
Because it was just a job for you, like that too. It wasn't fulfilling your purpose, like traveling the world and helping people. Like you're
not at all
a giver, and you weren't doing that sitting behind a desk either. No.
But it was a stepping stone for something better in my future.
And everything happens for a reason, right? If you didn't have that, then you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Exactly. And even though I took an enormous pay cut to just take whatever I had invested in my pension and try to live off of that for the rest of my life, what I found is that I'm much happier. Deciding to, one day, let's rewind this for a second, but one day I was sitting in the bathtub and I'm talking to Bronson and I'm drinking my glass of wine. Yes, during my deep depression. I know that was probably not the best thing to do, but I did it anyway.
Sometimes you have to do what you got to do.
That's right. And I said to him, I can't do this anymore. I cannot physically continue to stay here and look out of my doors and windows and be constantly reminded of all of the things that I can't do. I just can't do that anymore. I need to change. And then I said, look, I want you to come with me. I want our family unit to be together. But the only way that we can make that work is either you can quit your job and you can come with me, or you can keep your job. You only work 2 days a week. So, you can switch shifts, work for 10 days and have 20 days off, whatever it is that you need to do, but you can be with us along the road. But I can't stay here. I can't do this anymore. And we had a big, long cry about it because it was like, do we separate? Because I can no longer physically handle being here emotionally, mentally, just everything about it was just a a horrific reminder of what I no longer had. And it got to the point where he was like, he's second guessing everything. Well, I don't know. I only have 7 years left. If I do this, then I have to wait till I'm 50 to collect my pension, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, well, you need to make a decision because I'm leaving. I have to do this for me, for my well-being, my sense of pride, my sense of security, and for my particular well-being.
That takes so much courage to honor exactly what you needed, no matter what the consequences were, is that you knew no matter what, you had to honor your true purpose and your path. And by doing that and stepping into that, everything will happen exactly as it's supposed to happen, but it's scary. Oh my God, it's so scary.
It is scary. Yeah, because in that very moment, I knew that I could be losing not only my career, I could be losing my child, I could be losing my husband, I would be losing my home. I had everything to lose. And on the flip side of that, I didn't know what I would be gaining. I didn't know that there was going to be anything else out there for me.
And that, and that's something too, I think a lot of people is you can measure what you're going to lose. You can see exactly what you're going to lose, but you don't know what you can gain. And it's more of a feeling inside that you have to follow that no matter what. And you held on to that.
And I did. And I told him, I'm not trying to give you an ultimatum, but this is where I am in my life. Come with me. And if you don't want to come with me, meet me along the way. But I don't want to do this alone. I will if I have to, but I want you here on this journey with me. And he literally, like the very next day, we had decided, okay, he's going to walk in, he's going to quit his job. And he walked into work and they were doing some physical activity. And just like that, his 4th back injury at the job. And then he was in the same position that I was. And it was like this whole rigmarole starting all over again. Fast forward 1.5 years later, and the doctor, he settles up his work comp claim. The doctor has already told him he can't go back to work. And he has the same situation that I do. Doctors say, nope, just take what you got and go because you can't do this anymore. And knowing that we had already made this pact that once we retired, we were never going to work again, it was like, okay, well, now we need to figure out our bills. How are we going to live here and survive here and not work? How is that even possible? And it was for a little while, but then we still had the same problem that we couldn't do the things that we wanted to do that we moved there for. So after 13 years, we decided that we were just going to pack everything up, put everything in storage, rent out the house, live in an ambulance, convert it, and travel the world. So we bought the ambulance in February. We hit the road in August, and we've never looked back.
And you guys drove all the way down through Mexico.
We drove all the way down across the United States for 6 months, through Mexico for 7 months. Ended up having to return to the United States in order to switch out the ambulance because as you get through the southern parts of Mexico, the roads get so narrow that it's nearly impossible to go where you want to go in such a large vehicle. So we ended up buying a Toyota Land Cruiser, an old one, and outfitted that with everything that we need, all of our camping gear, all of our cooking stuff, and hit the road again.
And you guys are currently in Guatemala, right?
We're currently in Guatemala. We have been here for 2 months. We've been in Antigua for 1 month. Our visas expire in 1 month, so we're going to have to go back to Mexico for a weekend and get our visas renewed.
And how's Caden adjusting? He's 12 now.
Yeah, it was really hard for him at first because leaving his friends and leaving that home base, that was really difficult for him. But we let everybody know we had ample time to spend with all of our friends, and have a little going away party, and he got to see all of his friends, and we have a rule that if he gets homesick and he wants to go home and he wants to visit his friends, he just has to tell us. Because we can get him a plane ticket, we can get him home, we can get him to visit his family, we can, I mean, it's Truckee. We have a lot of well means there. We have a lot of parents that stay at home and take care of their children, and his friends' families are like that. And you know, they do
Has
have.
that happened yet?
No.
Uh.
One time he wanted to go and visit his grandma, but he doesn't like being away from us. He really enjoys the family time that we get to spend. He enjoys being able to meet all these other children and interact with all of these other children. Because I mean, he's kind of that kid that he kind of blossoms in every circumstance. And he's very malleable, he's very, very flexible, and he just doesn't let things bother him too much. So
he's happy because he's with you guys and all the time too. You spend more time with him now than you ever
all the time. Sometimes it is so hard.
How do you feel now with the life you have?
For the first time in my life, I feel like I have reached a point in my life that I can look at people and tell people that I feel like I have succeeded. I am doing what I want to do. My view changes every day when I want it to. I don't have to worry about anything. I mean, we sold the house. We have literally not a care in the world except for getting Caden's homework done. That's it. And everything else is kind of like, wake up when you want to wake up, go to bed when you're tired, eat when you feel hungry. You know, I'm not under this enormous amount of stress to keep up with my neighbors. I'm not under this enormous amount of stress to have a bunch of stuff and feel like I'm not adequate enough because I don't have these things. I don't feel like I need to catch up to anybody or need to prove anything to anybody. I have reached my turning point of which I look at myself in the mirror and I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with where we are, and we've worked our asses off to get here.
Yeah.
But we work hard to get to where we are and be able to do this financially. And while it's not always roses and lilies, you know, being on the road together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, it's very difficult. But you learn how to work around each other, and you learn the little nuances about, you know, mom's going to get really pissed if I do that. Or, you know, I need a little bit of space today. Just, you know, leave me alone for a little bit, you know, because we all need our space. But what people don't realize is that, you know, people think of us being on the road like we're homeless, you know, like, maybe in the technical sense that we don't have a home to go to, but we're never out of a house. You know, we have, I like to think of it as we're camping around the world, you know, wherever we want to go. And then when we get tired of it, we rent houses, you know, or we end up getting invited to stay in people's homes and they cook us dinners and they try to share their culture. I mean, we've been adopted by like probably 30 families over the last year and a half of people that just want us to come back. They just want us to come back. They've already designated a room for us or a space for us when we come. And
so you've removed yourself from those societal norms and the kind of feeling of keeping up with the Joneses and the stuff that we accumulate because we're not happy in our hearts, so to speak. And so you buy things because there is you buy something that makes you feel good for a minute. And now removing yourself from that and just living so simply gives you so much freedom too. Would you?
Not only does it give you freedom, but you really do appreciate the things that you do have.
Mm-hmm.
Literally a strainer.
Yes.
You know, like you go to a house, you rent one on Airbnb, and you want to cook a meal, and you need a strainer. And I have one in the car, but they don't have one in the house. And I'm so thankful that I have a strainer. Like just the simplest things. And you know, I look every day in the back of the car, because funny story, one time when we were in Mexico, we were getting ready to go visit one of the beaches, and we had all piled in. We rented a car, and we had piled into the car, and then I had gone to talk to the owners of the house to let them know that the dog was going to be in there by herself. And I get back in the car, we take off. Well,
forgot about that.
We take the dog with us. And she's a good traveler.
Yeah.
But we left her in the house, and we went to the beach, and we were driving down the road, and we turned around and we looked in the back of the car, and Caden wasn't there.
Yeah.
We left Caden somewhere in Mexico.
Oh no.
And for a second there, I freaked out, because I was like, oh my God, where the hell could he have possibly gone? He was literally in the car just before I went out to talk to the owners.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he grabs the little iPod and he sends me a message on Viber. And it's like, I get these messages a little bit later. We literally have been gone for 5 minutes. And he's blowing up my phone. I miss you guys. Are you guys going to come back and get me? I'm stuck in the house. We literally locked him inside the house, and he could not get out.
Oh my gosh.
And I felt like the worst parent in the world.
Oh,
but you know, it's like, it's not always easy.
No.
Living a lifestyle like this, but you do.
But life is like that, even when you feel like you're so connected and living your true path. Life can be hard. It still throws you adversity, and there's still obstacles in the way.
Absolutely.
But you can overcome those obstacles. They're so much easier to overcome if you feel like you're aligned with what you're supposed to be doing.
That's right. If you feel like you have a purpose and every day you can be working towards that purpose, it's easier to get out of bed in the morning. It's easier to put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the hardest part for me when we were still living in Truckee, was I was not moving forward. Mm-hmm. I was stagnant. I literally was like sitting in a block of concrete while the concrete just kept piling up on me. Mm-hmm. And I was being crushed to death. And that's how I equate it. I literally felt with every bone in my body like I was breaking. I literally was breaking in half. And it was
free.
Yeah. Now I don't have to worry about any of that. I don't watch the news. I don't even know what's happening with the next election. I don't care. I don't care. I'm sorry for everybody else that has to see ads for the next year and a half while this all goes down. Mm-hmm. You know, I genuinely feel sorry for everybody that is just stuck in that rut, that feel like they can't get out, that just are spinning their wheels trying to figure out, how do I do this? How do I take control of my life? How do I get this back? Because right now, in the place that I am in my life, I almost feel like a little kid in a candy shop. Every single day, something is new. And, I want to try that. I want to try that. Yeah. I haven't done that yet. That looks like fun. Let's do that. And it's that simple elation of just seeing something different and something new. And it might not even be new, but it's a new place with the same thing, and it's different. And
so if you were to encourage someone to step into their true path, what would be 3 things you would tell them?
First of all, you have to realize what your dream is.
Clarity.
Yeah. if you can't figure out what you want, you're not going to be able to find what you want. Mm-hmm. You have to know. You have to have some path that pushes you in a direction where you say, aha, you have that aha moment, like, this is what I'm meant to do.
Isn't that moment amazing? Like, can you remember that exact moment in time when it was like everything aligned and you're like, oh my God, this is it. Mm-hmm. And it's like a moment where this fire gets lit inside you, especially when you have been in this heavy place for so long. All of a sudden it's like you can breathe again.
Yeah, not only can you breathe, your body is like, it's on fire, right? Mm-hmm. You're literally like burning up, and then you have this overwhelming sense of relaxation that pushes everything away, and all of a sudden everything is so clear and so concise, and you can literally see every billion shade of blue that there is, and everything makes sense.
And then it's so easy for the decisions too. It's like, this is on my path, this is not on my path, this is on my path, this is not on my path. And it's like, you've weeded out all the dust. You've just dusted everything off and pulled the weeds. And you're like,
all of the artifact is gone.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
okay, so clarity is one, knowing exactly where you want to go. What's another one?
Knowing exactly where you want to go. You got to be brave. Mm-hmm. You've got to be willing to take the chance, because if you are not willing to take a risk, you will not be able to earn the reward. Mm. You have to be willing to take the chance. Mm-hmm. But you also have to know that you could risk losing everything, but you have to learn to be okay with that, because
courage,
it's one of those things where, yeah, if you lose everything, look at it as an opportunity to start new. You have an opportunity to reinvent yourself into something you never thought you could be. And maybe that's your purpose.
Yeah.
Exactly. You never know.
And that failure is not a bad thing. You learn so much off of a seemingly fail when maybe that's exactly on your same path too.
That's right. And I call it failing forward.
Yes. Because I love that.
If you fail and you don't learn from it, you're going to continue to fail. Mm-hmm. But if you fail and you learn from it, and then you fail again in something else and you learn from it, you're learning lessons. You're learning things that are going to help you along your path, and it's going to bring you clarity. And all of those things will align. Eventually you will get there, but you have to know the path that you want to take.
So clarity, bravery, courage. What's your third one?
My third one is just don't give a shit about what people think about you.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, nobody really cares. Mm-hmm. You are the only one that cares what other people think about you. Because I guarantee you, by the time people go home at the end of the day, they don't remember what you were wearing. Mm-hmm. They don't remember what you ate for lunch. Mm-hmm. They don't remember half of the shit you talked about during the day. Mm-hmm. And because everybody is so caught up in their own life, mm-hmm. and if you're worried constantly about what other people are thinking about you, you don't have the opportunity to be able to see clearly, because you're too distracted by what other people are going to think about you. And you're too busy thinking that you have to be perfect.
Yes.
But nobody's perfect.
A big mentor of mine, Dean Graziosi, he always says it's not about you. It's about the message you have for other people. And if you're too afraid to say your message, then you're actually doing a disservice to those people that need to hear it. And I always think about that, because doing videos and all that and putting yourself out there, it's very vulnerable. But if you go back to that mindset, it's not about you. It's about your message and what you have to share with the world. It takes a lot of that judgment away too. So those are great. So what does
not everybody is.
Yeah. What does an extraordinary... Oh yeah, sorry, we have a delay. What does an extraordinary life mean to you, Vanessa?
Well, to me, an extraordinary life can be anything. It's very subjective. You know, extraordinary to me may be normal for somebody else. To me, my extraordinary life is having the freedom to do whatever the hell I want to do whenever I want to do it. And that's also my idea of success. I am now in a place where I can do that. I have my family here with me. I have everything that I need. I want for nothing. And I don't have a lot of money, but I don't need a lot of money to do what I'm doing. You know, I look out of my windows and I see these people on the streets that are happy with nothing. They are working their fingers to the bone, and they are the most kind-hearted people that will still give you the shirt off of their back, give you whatever money that they have so that you can eat, even if that means they go hungry. They're happy. And it's just another reminder that you don't need a lot of things to make you happy. Happiness is something that comes from within you, and you have to figure out what makes you happy. And that's what makes people extraordinary, is finding within themselves how to continue to shine.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest part.
I think that's exactly why I wanted to do this series too, is that extraordinary is different for every single person. And in society, we get this idea that maybe rich and famous is extraordinary, or being popular is extraordinary, where each of us is so different, and what fulfills us and is completely different from what fulfills you or what fulfills me. That stepping into your extraordinary life is just stepping into your purpose, and that looks different for every single person. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Vanessa. And I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Happy to do it, Kayla.
And it's so good to see you guys. You look wonderful. And I love seeing all your pictures that you share. And now I have a lot of places on my to-do list to go, because some of those places that you post pictures are incredible.
Oh, there are so many, so many.
Well, thank you. Right. Have a wonderful day.
Hi to the family.
I will, definitely.
All right, you too. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.